Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Retrotopia. My name's Alan, also known as the British Guy, and as such, I'm the only member of the team who actually knows what a crumpet is. Today, Sam and myself will be talking about Dissidia Final Fantasy for the PSP. An interesting little fighting game, a spin-off of course from the main series of Final Fantasy. Funny that. Brian's not with us this week. He is in fact off on a secret mission for Canadian security. I mean, he says that he's on vacation, but I can read between the lines, and that's definitely a mission for Poutine and country. Before we get into the meat of the episode, of course, we have to get our plugs out of the way. You can find all of our socials at, and I should remember this, Linktree. I'm so bad at this. Linktree/Retrotopia. That's linktr.ee/Retrotopia. You can find all of our social medias, our outstandingly classy Discord, where you can come and join with some excellent and like-minded individuals to discuss all things gaming and otherwise, and our Patreon, of course, which is free to join, and you can listen to all of our episodes in one place. You can listen to our quick plays, Patreon exclusive show where Brian, Sam and I play some of those shorter games which maybe don't have the meat for a full episode, and then we talk about them. And you can also listen to our Retro Bites series, which is a sort of gaming topical discussion where, again, the three of us just get together and just shoot the shit for an hour or two. It's a lot of fun. Last but not least, of course, you can have your say from our 8-bit banter box. I have it on good authority that it is culturally elegant. So, first up on the box is Super Dave, and he says, over the years, Final Fantasy has tackled kart racing, rhythm games, arena fighter, and many more. What other gaming genres would you like to see this franchise attempt? That is an excellent question, Super Dave, and I had to stop and think about this for a while, because you're absolutely right, there have been so many different genres of games covered by Final Fantasy. Like you said, you've got your racers. My mind went, oh, let's have a rhythm game. But then, of course, there's the theatrhythm games. So it was really difficult to sort of think of a game that hadn't already been done. And the best that I could come up with is listen, hear me out. Listen to this. It's a simulation game whereby you play as a shopkeeper, maybe a Moogle. It's a business simulation where you play as one of the merchants in a Final Fantasy world. So you have to create your business, supply heroes and what have you, and navigate the inevitable world-ending catastrophes that seem to hit the Final Fantasy world every other week. You could even play as... Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, you could play as the Moogles. So it's a Moogle business simulation game where you start a business and I'm happy with that. That's my idea. So Moogle merchant. There we go. So yeah, there we go. That's that fantastic question, Super Dave. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Sharkbite, who says, who was your favourite character to play as? And I'm pretty sure Sam and I actually discussed this on the episode. But I can only speak for myself, and it's been a minute since I played the game, but I remember my playstyle being very suited to the faster players. So Tidus and Zidane, probably my favourite characters from a gameplay standpoint, because I just found them very easy to use. Some of the characters were a bit slow, some of them were just a bit finicky. I liked the sort of quick hit and run style of those characters. From a purely fanboy point of view, obviously, you know, I gravitated immediately towards Cloud because dude's just cool. So from a coolness point of view, Cloud is probably the favourite, but actually playing the game, it would either be Tidus or a Zidane. So there you go. Thank you very much, guys. What I've been up to recently. So let's do that now. I have mostly been sweating my bollocks off. It has been very hot over here in the UK. We're going through a bit of a heat wave at the moment. So a lot of my time has been spent trying to stay cool, having a few drinks with my feet in the kids' paddling pool, and, you know, making the most of the weather, trying to get out and not burn. But yeah, it's we've actually got summer over here, and we are not used to having summer. In fact, in the UK, we are only set up for about a range of 10 degrees. Anything under that, everything shuts down. Anything involving snow, the country's fucked. Anything above about 25 degrees, and everybody melts. And we're always surprised when it happens. And no matter how many times this sort of thing happens, we do nothing about it. So we just sweat through because that's the British way. As for gaming, well, I, and quite fittingly, have been playing Final Fantasy, specifically Final Fantasy 13 at the moment, which, contrary to what many people say, I'm actually rather enjoying. I've never played it before. I've been working through all of the numbered Final Fantasies, and this is as far as I've gotten. And from a story point of view, it's actually very good. I can hear the argument that it's very linear. Absolutely. I can't argue with that. But I'm in the mood for a bit of linearity at the moment. I've been playing a lot of very open world games recently, so I'm not seeing the downside to that style of gaming at the minute. Other than that, I'm playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Switch, and that's just, well, it's Donkey Kong, isn't it? You know you're in for a good time with those games. So bright, colourful, very enjoyable. Still early going yet, so I haven't gotten to any of the hair-tearingly difficult sections. But so, yeah, enjoying that quite a lot. And I'll be starting Bionic Commando shortly for an upcoming quick play. So looking forward to that. I've got the original cartridge that came through just the other day to play on my NES, so that's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. So I can't wait to get stuck into that. So that's basically what I've been doing. Brilliant stuff. So moving on, and we are going to, before we get into talking about the game, of course, we have to get to not the gentleman's interlude. Oh no, today we have got a little bit different for you. So before Brian disappeared on his little sojourn there, he left us with a little interlude, and still don't quite know what to call these things when Brian does them. So I am going to go with the. Ooh, I'm going to call it the Canadian Clapper.
Well, how you doing now, there, eh? We're talking about Dissidia Final Fantasy, and it ain't just one of your run-of-the-mill games, buddy. Developed and published by Square Enix, guy, this gem hit the scenes back in December 2008 in Japan before making its way over to North America and Europe come August 2009, Fred. So picture this, buds. You got those heroes and villains from different Final Fantasy games having a good old-fashioned Donnybrook. It's all part of this epic tale where Cosmos, the god of harmony, and Chaos, the god of discord, they're all back smoking some darts, chirping each other. Well, now, to sort things out, they summon warriors from all over the Final Fantasy universe. Talk about a scuffle, eh? Now, when it comes to gameplay, it's not your typical button mash and kerfuffle. No, it's not. I've thrown in some of them role-playing elements there. This thing called the bravery system. You're throwing knuckles out left and right there, buds, building up your bravery while whittling down your opponents, and then when the time's right, bam, you give her with a hit point attack that'll knock them back to Saskatoon, eh? And let me tell you, the lineup of characters is like a dream team for old Final Fantasy fans. Oh, you got all those classic guys from like Cloud Stripe to Sephiroth and Terra to like Kefka, and the rest of the bench is ready to hop the boards, if you know. It's like a reunion of your favorite characters, eh? When Dissidia Final Fantasy dropped, it was like a breath of that fresh East Coast air. Critics and hosers alike couldn't get enough of its innovative gameplay and stunning visuals. Sure, some hosers there thought it was a bit repetitive, but maybe the single player mode is lacking a bit. But overall, it was a hit, eh? So if you're an eager beaver looking for a game that'll keep you glued to your PSP for hours on end, this is the game for you, fella. Oh, it's totally the way to go, eh? It's like the double-double of gaming goodness, pal.
Thank you for that, Brian. Wonderful as always. And I genuinely hope that clapper means what I think it is. I think it's a hockey term. So if I've gotten that wrong, I'm sorry. So, now's the time to get on to our game chat. And of course, before we get there, we love to hear your comments, your thoughts on the game in question. So let's get into some Dissidia comments. And again, we've got Super Dave kicking things off with truly an underrated gem on the PSP. I put so many hours into this game leveling up characters in the arcade mode that by the time I tackled the story mode, I was unfairly overpowered, which was fine by me because the story and dialogue were terrible. Chaos and Primal Chaos boss battles almost made up for that slog. I think, yeah, I pretty much agree. I pretty much agree with everything that you just said. No, not everyone may agree with you, but I do, Dave. It is an underrated gem. It's we do discuss the possibilities for leveling up outside of the story mode and then going back in overpowered, which did come up, and something that I definitely did in order to tackle the final scenario there. So yeah, excellent, very good point. Moving on, Sharkbite says, one of the greatest fighting games to be on a Sony console. The story was a tad lackluster, but it's still a good game nonetheless. I replayed it recently on my phone and still enjoyed it as much as I did the first time. An underrated gem for sure. Again, I agree, Sharkbite. Although, I've got to say, I cannot imagine playing this game on a phone. I mean, I struggled enough as it is on a PSP. Playing it on a phone, my God, that must be... How do you just not snap that thing in half? I do agree, the story is a tad lackluster, but come on, the story does what it needs to get all of these characters together, so... It is what it is. So, yeah. And then lastly, Sergeant Hombre says, this is, without a doubt, 100% certainly a game I have heard of on a system that I loved. 8 out of 10. Well, Hombre, I mean, you may have heard of this game, but if it's been a while, then maybe you don't remember it very well. So allow us here to refresh your memory. I know you know it very, very well, but indulge us while we just take you through Final Fantasy Dissidia, or Dissidia Final Fantasy, whichever. Thanks, guys, as always, for your comments. We always love hearing from you. It's one of my favourite parts of the intro, frankly. So let's get into it. So here we go. Sam and I rather, are going to talk about Dissidia Final Fantasy, released on the PSP at some point in time. I didn't look it up. December 18th, 2008 in Japan, August 25th, 2009 in North America, and September 4th, 2009 in Europe. So, spike up your hair and grab your comically oversized swords and come and join us as we discuss the game.
All right. Thank you, Alan, for that brilliant introduction, and Brian for the Canadian gentleman's intro. That was fantastic. We are here to talk about Dissidia Final Fantasy. It was developed and published by Square Enix in 2008 for Japan. It came over to North America in 2009. I believe I said for the PSP. Alan is with me to chat about this game. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited to talk about this game. You know, it's it's not without its charms.
Yeah, it's not without its charms. Actually, no, you're right. I didn't. This game, like, let's be honest. We don't want to, give away the whole episode here. But this game wasn't my cup of tea. But I can definitely see the appeal.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
I think this is going to be an interesting episode in so much as we're kind of approaching this game from two fairly opposing viewpoints, I think.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I was like, some of my venom came through in the chat that we have going in Discord. I was not pleased with certain aspects of this game, but if you're interested in playing it, I'd say definitely give it a shot. It's pretty. If you have a PSP, which is probably a pretty limited number of people at this point.
That's true.
The game itself wasn't hard to find.
No. And we may be the last two people left with a PSP at this point.
Yeah, it might.
And yours just barely works.
Yeah, it works. It works pretty well. It's like it's real finicky. At one point it was, after several moves and, getting out of video games for a while, it was just something I was kind of hanging on to, and it was in a box, down in the basement. And one point a few years ago, I checked on it, just like, maybe I should fire that up. I had some pretty fun games for that. And the battery pack, the lithium ion battery pack, had like kind of ruptured.
Oh, lame.
And popped the actually the back, the battery back on it is kind of cracked, but it still functions, which is good because it's the Darth Vader one, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, you showed us a picture of that. That thing is slick.
Yeah, so I ordered a new power cord and a new battery pack for it, but it just won't hold a reliable charge. It'll go down to like, so it doesn't have as far as I know, it doesn't have like a really nice diagnostic like battery percentage option like the Switch has, or like a modern handheld would have, but it has like 3 bars on it, and basically like if you fall below the 3, it'll say like low battery or whatever when it worked, but it'll be like two battery bars left and the thing will just die. So if I don't have it plugged in, I can't reliably know that it's going to stay running. And when it dies, it dies, and I need to like reset the time, and it still thinks it's like 2005 or whatever the fuck.
I just got my PSP out just to have on the side here, just in case I need to pop it on and just like scroll through some menu screens or what have you. And the battery had in fact run out, and it's getting further and further to change that date, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really depressing. It's like, man, I wish I was in like a Twilight Zone episode where it would like actually transport me back to like an earlier time if I wanted to. Like if you had some sort of like weird quantum PSP that was actually like a time device.
That's I could get on board with that.
I set the PSP to 2010 and it took me back to 2010.
Nice. Yeah.
Would be nuts. Anyways, we're off track here, but like, this, if you want to play this game, actually PSPs themselves, I don't think, at least here in the States, a PSP is not too difficult to get a hold of, and they're not all that expensive. They're actually we were chatting about it on Discord, and my 3DS that I recently picked up at a retro game shop was way more than a PSP would be in the secondhand market.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty similar over here, actually, to be honest.
I mean, some of the individual games might be fairly expensive, but
I think there are more cheap or affordable games on the PSP than there are there. I mean, there are a couple that are getting up there. You usual stuff like your Metal Gears and your Silent Hills and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. This one, I think I just got a pretty brand new copy off of Amazon. I mean, this one was we've been talking about this for a while, doing this game, because you had mentioned that you'd played it, and I was like, I'd give that a shot. I got a PSP and also like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that this episode was originally going to be a quick play, and then you talked me into doing a full episode on this. So on your head be it.
Yeah, this was
all your idea.
This is worth This is worth a full episode for sure.
It's
a full game. There's enough here.
Yeah.
So if you haven't played it before, this is a I guess it kind of gets slotted in as a fighting game, but it's more of an action RPG style fighting game. I would call it more of an action RPG than a fighting game. What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's kind of like an arena fighter almost, but with role-playing elements, which is very interesting because I picked the game up because I'm working on collecting all of the Final Fantasy games, and this just happened to be on the list. And I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I like fighting games, but I'm not very good at them. So generally speaking, I sort of stick in my lane. But this is something that I just obviously had to pick up for the collection, and it's very interesting. It's because it doesn't really slot into that fighting game genre, in my opinion.
I was surprised by it. Yeah,
it almost plays more like, I guess, in some respects, like Kingdom Hearts without the story. It's just that sort of big, wide 3D area, lots of verticality, rather than the sort of straight 2D, one guy on one side, one guy on the other. So you've got some room to play with there.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for this, and it said that Dissidia originated from so Tetsuya Nomura is the guy who was I guess the game designer, or the main guy for Kingdom Hearts, and this was supposed to initially be a spin-off of the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and then later changed to the Final Fantasy series instead. So, and I'm wondering, like, that art style really kind of looks Kingdom Hearts-ish too. I mean, it's obviously all of the Final Fantasy characters, but just the art design gave me Kingdom Hearts vibes.
Well, I mean, a lot of the Final Fantasy characters crop up in Kingdom Hearts, and they look more or less the same. It's... I've sort of lost my train of thought now. That was an excellent point. Kingdom.
Such a poignant point.
Such a poignant point. I was just rendered speechless. I think it was the right call. I mean, Lord knows Kingdom Hearts has enough fucking spin-offs at this point, and it seems to me like a game that kind of had to happen. It's sort of a no-brainer when you think about it. I mean, you've got, at that point, about 10 or 11 games in the Final Fantasy series. It's just like you've got all of these protagonists and all of these villains. It's a no-brainer to have them in a fighting game. It almost writes itself.
Yeah, it's kind of, and this is the kind of game that I think is right at home, perfect on the PSP at the time, because a lot of what kind of, I guess I had a PSP back in the heyday of the PSP. So this was, the 2008, 2009 era. But my favorite games for the PSP were games like this that were kind of made for the put a I guess kind of a different spin on an old formula. So you have a game like this, whereas a lot of the fare that you kind of saw on the PSP was like God of War, but like kind of just a PSP version of God of War, or like a Ratchet and Clank game, but it was like, Clank, and it was for the PSP. Just like kind of a handheld version of something that you would play on, PS2 or PS3 later on.
Yeah.
This kind of added something, a different element to, like this is a Final Fantasy style game, and it's got Final Fantasy characters, but it's not a, turn-based JRPG. We're not trying to make Final Fantasy X, but for the PSP. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of afforded them the opportunity to take risks with the franchise.
Yeah.
Well,
Definitely
I mean,
creative.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And it's just like, well, if it doesn't work out, then we've still got our bread and butter, which are the sort of numbered mainline Final Fantasy games. Which
yeah, and interestingly, I think it did work out. What was the reception? I think, I think it did better. Usually these games do better in Japan than they do in the U.S. sales wise, I think. But
I mean, it got 2 sequels.
That's just me. Yeah, that's just me talking out of my ass. But I mean, reception wise, I'm looking at some review scores, and they're getting pretty high review scores on this game. So I think, generally reviewers, critics seem to like this game. Oh, wow. And then Best of E3 2009, Dissidia was awarded Best Fighting Game by IGN. So,
there you go.
I mean, sold well, did well critically. Should we get into the game itself? I mean, we kind of just chatted general PSP and and everything, but this is the first PSP game we're covering, so we gotta talk about the PSP.
Long overdue. This little thing just deserves a bit of love. I love the PSP.
It was a beast. It got me through the last. So in 2009 would have been my senior year of college, and there was some travel abroad, study abroad that I did, and the classes didn't really happen. They kind of so I was living in France, and they went on strike for like the whole time we were there, as they are. As they do. Yeah. But we didn't have anything to do, and life there is more expensive, than it is here. I mean, exchange rates being what they were, I think the euro was like $1.30 to $1. So it's like, it's not like we could go and blow all our money. I mean, it was a fast burn rate if we wanted to go travel or spend money on anything. So I had brought along a PSP. Just to have, whatever, some video games, portable.
Sure.
And I spent so much time playing that friggin' PSP because I had nothing to do for like days or weeks at a time.
I hear that.
Dissidia was not one of the games I had at the time, but, like Final Fantasy 1 and 2, the remakes for that PSP. I think I had Star Ocean. I had Castlevania, which we've talked about, Rondo of Blood. I had the Dracula X Chronicles. Yep, played the hell out of that. So yeah, I owe a debt of gratitude to the PSP. So that's my gush on the PSP, I guess.
Good times.
But this game,
but you didn't play Dissidia.
Yeah, this game is not. I did not play Dissidia. I don't know. I wonder if I would have liked it at the time. But right now. Let's get into it is complicated. Let's get into we'll start with the story, I guess, because like what purpose do these characters from different Final Fantasy games in the franchise, they take a hero and a villain from each of the 10 mainline games to that point, or I think was 11 and 12. I don't care about 11 or 12. I mean, 10. They go through 10, basically.
Yeah.
Up through Final Fantasy X, they have a protagonist and an antagonist from each game in the series.
That's right.
Which is pretty cool. But there is kind of a loose plot that kind of tells us why these 10 characters from each side, from each game in the franchise to that point, are together and fighting for whatever. Can you elaborate on that? Because I was lost.
I
Do
mean,
you
to an
understand the story?
extent, I don't think anyone understands the story, but I'm going to give it a fucking good go.
So
I mean,
dumb.
at the end of the day, the story is just there to get all of these characters in the mix, and
Right.
yeah, it doesn't have to be anything special. But as far as I can surmise, all of these characters, as you said, all the a protagonist and a villain from each mainline game have been pulled across to what they call, I think, World B, and pressed into the service of either Cosmos or Chaos.
Right.
A god, a god for good and a god for evil, waging an endless war for the fate of life, the universe, and everything. This cycle repeats itself endlessly, basically, with the characters having no memory of the cycle that came before. So basically, they're chess pieces, which is actually a poignant observation because of the boards, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
just gonna suck my own dick there for a
Wow.
second.
That was wow. Now I'm
I know.
speechless.
Oh, I just need a cigarette now.
I actually wish I would have talked to you about what the fuck this story is before I tried to figure it out on my own, because that makes so much more sense now.
I mean,
like
to
that's
be
why
honest,
they act the way they do.
it gets convoluted because eventually you get to a point where Cosmos is basically on the ropes and tells all of our mainline protagonists to go and find their own personal crystal. And because it's always a fucking crystal in Final Fantasy. So they go on these... Yeah, absolutely. So they go on these journeys to find their crystals, and along the way they discover their own personal flavour of friendship that they're going to use to fight a god. And that's when it starts to get a bit convoluted, and where I start to sort of fall off, because it turns out that all the crystals are pieces of Cosmos, and then she gets killed, and rather than disappear back to their own worlds, they use the crystals to just hold on a bit longer to fight Chaos, and da-da-da-da-da. That's as far as I understand. There's something going on with, like, our boy Sephiroth has, like, he killed himself in the last cycle, so this cycle he remembers everything so that they can play. Basically, it's enough to get these characters into the ring together.
Yeah, like let's put together some stitching to get these characters all together, and I guess whatever, it's not really necessary, but I guess if they wanted a story mode, I guess that kind of forms the backbone for the story mode. I will say that you got here, it says Cosmos is the goddess of harmony and Chaos is the god of discord. I dispute that. I think our one and only Captain N, aka Brian, is the true god of discord.
Brian is absolutely the god of discord, which is why he's not here at the moment. Brian was last seen falling through a portal to go to World B, to have some rather stern words with Chaos there.
I'm the god of discord.
Damn it.
Yeah.
And then obviously apologized for it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, actually, I misspoke, because I often do speak out of my ass. There are two secret characters: a heroine representing Final Fantasy XI and a villain representing Final Fantasy XII. So they do incorporate a little bit of 11 and 12, but really the main focus are the first 10 mainline games in the Final Fantasy. Yeah.
See, I'd heard that, but I never found those characters, so I can't speak to that.
I'm not gonna find them.
No, I mean the basic. Go on.
Go ahead. Full disclosure: no. I didn't finish this. I played the story mode of, I'd say, 2.5 of the 10 characters available. I completed 2 of them, but this game just didn't click with me. I would get a little frustrated with certain aspects that we'll talk about later on.
Which is understandable. So, I mean, the basic premise of the game is, of course, every character has their own story mode. And every character has their own fighting style. Which...
Yes, they sure do.
Well, it makes sense that there are some characters... Because you sort of got on with Tidus, but you didn't get on with many of the other characters. I think you played as Cloud, right?
I played as Cloud. So when you're you have when you go into story mode, you have the option of clicking through, and you can see, you can play as, they're all in order too. So I think and the interesting thing, the fun thing is like the Final Fantasy 1 character is this, like, obviously Final Fantasy 1 ass looking dude with like a huge helm and whatever, and I think he's just called like the Warrior of Light, which is what they are in Final Fantasy 1. I don't think they really have a name. And the same in Final Fantasy 2, they actually do. I've played Final Fantasy 2. That's Furion. And then there is Final Fantasy 3. I really liked that nod too, because the character is just Onion Knight, which is kind of a nod to the job system in Final Fantasy 3. And then I think I played, so to get back to where I was going, you go through the characters, and they all have like a different difficulty level that's communicated by the number of stars for each story mode. So I obviously was like, I'm not going to start with anything more than 1 star. I just want to see how this game works. And luckily my boy Cloud was a 1 star, which I think is kind of, because he's the most popular character, I think that's kind of, that's nice of them to be like, we'll make him a 1 star. So that's where you can start. You can play as your favorite dude.
That would make sense. I never thought of it like that, but that actually makes
that would have been
a lot of sense.
That would have been a real fucking dick move if they made Cloud like a 5 star. It's like, you want to play as your favorite character, you fucking wait.
Get fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play with that character right off the bat. I mean, it's not like they unlock or anything like that, but you're gonna have a bad time.
No, yeah. It's funny because you play a prologue as Warrior of Light just to get, the basics down. And once you complete the prologue, it's like, okay, chapter 1, Warrior of Light, 5 stars. So I was like, oh, hard pass. I'm like, I'll scroll through and find a different one. Thank you.
I wonder how many people went straight into Warrior of Light and then put the game down and never played it again.
Oh God, yeah, you get like absolutely worked right away, and I don't think Warrior of Light handled particularly well, because I'm playing through the prologue and it's like, man, some of these hits, it's like, obviously it's a skill, you kind of acquire the, you get the feel for it, but in the prologue, I definitely didn't get the feel for it by that point. Like, I understood how the board worked and all that stuff. So when you're going through the story of each character, you're on like a 5, you go through like a 5-stage kind of game board, where there are encounters on the board, there are items on the board and things, and you move your piece across the board and engage in battles and pick up items and whatever, and you get to the end, and there's a chaos signet that you either dispel and end the round, or there's a boss fight, and some of the storylines have like a mid boss and then a final boss, and like the fifth stage of that story. So oh gosh, like playing as who's it, Cecil or Cecil from Final Fantasy 4. I had a real bad time with him. I thought he was slow and clunky as fuck. But
is he the one that changes forms depending on where he is?
Yes.
Yeah, you see, and that is very not counterintuitive, but it's very fiddly.
It's weird because it can definitely happen when you don't intend it to.
No.
And the light version of Cecil is like really maneuverable.
Yeah,
and a little quicker. Yeah, and it was pretty useful. But then you get back on the ground and you want to probably keep the light version, and if you hit the wrong button, he'll turn back into this like clunky dark knight that's very ground based. It's just like, he's so slow. I was getting absolutely worked.
Yeah, I can see him being a good character if you figure out how to play those two sides of the character off.
Right.
But I was just playing through with each character, but if there was one, it's just like, okay, well, I'll beat the story with this guy and then I'll never touch it again. And the thing is, with this game, as soon as you beat your first character's full story, it will unlock the end game, which we'll get onto a bit later on. But
right,
it's perfectly possible for you to just play through the story of, say, Cloud, and then use him in the end game and beat the game. Whereas in I think it was the Japanese version, you had to beat the game with every single character before you unlocked that final scenario. So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, I just in another example of, maybe dumbing it down for the West, but I definitely want. I mean, I play through with every character, but I appreciate that they did that.
You did. Okay, that was going to be my question is did you play all the story modes?
Yeah.
I only played Cloud. I played Cloud, Cecil, and Tidus. I got all the way through, but then like Jack kicked my ass, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm good. I know enough of this. Like,
he was hard fucking work though.
And I actually, like, I wasn't doing too bad, but like sometimes this game, like the tide of a fight can flip on a dime. It's just like, what the fuck?
Sure enough. I mean, we should probably explain how the fights actually work, because that's not.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, unique, and it's sometimes a bit unhelpful. But yeah, there are basically two different styles of attack. So you've got your bravery attacks and you've got your HP attacks. So basically, if you just spam HP attacks, you're not going to do a lot of damage. So the trick is to use these bravery attacks to... So you both have a bravery counter. And the more bravery attacks you use on your opponent, the lower their counter goes, the higher yours goes. And then when that gets high enough and you unleash a HP attack, you're going to do a fuck ton of damage.
Right. And it tells you... I mean, you can watch the numbers next. So I'm looking at a picture of it right now. It's really weird to explain, but think of a generic, like a Street Fighter or not calling those generic, but think of a typical fighting game, a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or something, and how you have your health bar on top. So you have a health bar, and then you have a number above that. And it's in the hundreds, or it can get up to the thousands, depending on, what your bravery count is. But basically, you don't do HP damage on the health meter until you deplete your opponent's bravery to 0, and then they kind of break, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you want to use, and the circle button was the bravery attack, and it's kind of a more quick attack. And you can dodge, and, you can do some other combos and stuff. And I think your characters will learn stuff as you level up and go along. So there is some dynamic, some growth, and that's why it's, obviously it is a role-playing game in that aspect. You are growing your character and equipping them, and you can use different summons. The way they activate was kind of confusing to me. I got, I think I had, what was the one? Carbuncle I had equipped, and Carbuncle would switch the bravery meters, or do something with the bravery meters and give you more bravery and deplete theirs to 0 or something like that,
which is again where it comes back to you saying about how these fights can turn on a dime, because if you could be doing really well, if your opponent then goes ahead and just does the old switcheroo on you, then all they have to do is nail you with a good HP attack, and that's it, you're fucked.
Yeah, and sometimes you get I would find myself getting kind of out of rhythm, where I'm doing really well and I'm landing attacks and I'm dodging pretty well, and then all of a sudden they'll just kind of hit me with something and I'll get knocked back or something, and then it's like I just can't seem to get back into the rhythm of the fight, and I'm just getting nailed with stuff, and then just all of a sudden it just ends. It's like, you are defeated, or whatever it says, just like, fuck. Like, what the hell just happened? I was doing fine, and it's really a lot to keep track of on the screen.
Oh, it is, and there's a lot to say for momentum in this game. If you have it, you're great. When you lose it, it's very hard to claw your way back again. Not impossible.
And when you start to lose it, you can lose it fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I didn't think of it until now, but yeah, there's just a lot of fucking shit going on that screen that you have to keep track of. So there's another thing that happens is if you knock an opponent back, if you've learned the skill, or maybe just certain fighters have this, but there is a kind of a quick time event that triggers and you can pursue your enemy.
Yeah.
So like Tidus had it for sure. You know, you'd hit them with the fast attack and it would knock them back, and then the X button for like a split second would flash on the screen, and if you hit it, he would launch himself, and then you could choose to either do another bravery attack or another hit point attack, and that was helpful because there were a couple times where, mostly for lower level enemies, I would rush, hit them a couple times and then rush at them, and then I could use that square button to do the HP attack, and you feel like a boss when you...
absolutely. Yep. Because they can't do fucking anything.
Yeah, and that's actually usually how the computer, the CPU character felt when fighting me. But it was nice to turn the table every now and then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the thing is as well, where that comes undone, of course, is on some of the higher level enemies, because you can chase them and then you get into a bit of a guessing game almost, because you can either do your bravery or HP attack, but if they guess right what you're doing and do the appropriate dodge, then obviously they'll get out the way. But then, of course, they can counterattack and you can do the same. So sometimes you can both be attacking, dodging, dodging. And that can go on for some time until somebody either lands a hit or enough time has passed, you both just drop out of the lock. Which I thought that was,
It's pretty cool to see. I was just thinking of like, a lot of that happens in the air.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, it's the most Final Fantasy-ass shit. Like if you've seen Advent Children, where they're just like having a sword fight in the air or whatever. It's like, Final Fantasy is traditionally a turn-based game, but like for sure this is like what they're imagining when they're...
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should mention that, because this Advent Children is partly what inspired the combat style of this game. Particularly...
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah. I mean, the game looks fucking cool. There's no denying that. And if you are able to start gaining that momentum, and it's like you said, you do feel like a boss, because all of this flashy shit is going on. You're up in the air, you're chasing the enemies, and like it's genuinely thrilling.
It's so dynamic. It also gives you like kind of Dragon Ball Z inspired vibes, like hitting and chasing and doing the dodges midair and all that kind of stuff. Kind of, I don't know if you've played the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games, but I had those when I was a kid, and it's like Budokai 2 was fantastic, but like the way that you're in the air and you can dodge in a 3D space and do attacks, and it really did kind of translate what you're seeing in the anime to a fighting game, and this kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It was cool. It was kind of hard to get when you're doing it right, though. It's really cool. It's like, oh, this is, I can dodge this, and then really, if I react fast enough, I can hit attack and maybe get him for some. And but when you're behind it, it's really frustrating. They just freaking work you over and smash you to the ground.
Because again, it's so difficult to turn around that losing streak when you're on one.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like punching above your weight class in this game. If you're under leveled and you go into a fight, you're probably going to get smoked. And I think that's part of the problem that I had with this, is that you can replay story and you can actually level up and then exit and restart the story mode and retain your level. But part of what I didn't like about it is it wasn't really that balanced, because I worked myself all the way through Tidus' storyline and then end up fighting Jecht, and it's like I'm level, I don't know, let's say I'm level 8 and Jecht is like 14, and Jecht is just gonna frickin' destroy you unless you're pretty goddamn good at the game. So really the play there is to get to a point, maybe give the fight a try, and then realize, oh no, I'm not at a point where I can face this boss, and any hit he lands is gonna like absolutely destroy me. So I'm gonna actually abandon this run and then restart it again. But that kind of, to me, is almost a waste of time. I think a well-balanced game would work you through a character's story, and you'd be ready to face whatever enemy is at the end by the end. It's not saying it should be easy, but at least it should be winnable.
I think where that balances out, though, and it's not immediately obvious, but there are other modes in this game, like quick battles and Colosseum duels and things like that. And you can use your character in those and level up for the main story. And I think...
Well, that's probably where I didn't play the game to its fullest.
Well, sure. I mean, to be fair, neither did I. But the option is there. I think, obviously, back in the day when this game was big, they were, I guess, expecting you... And it lends itself well to the game, to the PSP style. It's just that, whenever you can, you pick it up, you have a couple of quick battles with whatever character that you want to play with, then you put it down. And without realizing, you're sort of leveling up so that when you go back to the story, everything's a little bit easier. Now, like yourself, I was just bashing my head against that brick wall and trying to get through that way. But, eventually I did. There were some pretty close to whipping my PSP across the room moments. But
for sure. Mine's already a little bit broken. I didn't want to break it anymore.
Oh, yeah, you just take the socket with it and everything.
Yeah. Just yank it out of the wall, take some drywall.
But you are right in saying that there are some pretty steep and pretty random difficulty curves in this game.
Right.
Like, I will concede that.
Yeah, it can be frustrating, but, and the other, on the game board itself, when you're on these boards going through each character's story, they move spaces in a grid, but there are different paths you can take across the board to get to the chaos signet. And you have these things called destiny points. Those I found frustrating because they dangle the carrot like, hey, if you finish this board with, 5 or 6 destiny points, you get like flame armor or whatever. It's like, oh fuck, I want that, of course. But as soon as you step off your home space, you lose a destiny point. And every time you engage in a battle or open a treasure chest, you're basically using a destiny point to do that. And the way that you can earn them back is by meeting certain conditions on the battles that are on the board. And those were sometimes a pain in the ass to try to get. I would get them sometimes, but it would be like, get a critical hit within 10 seconds, or win the battle within 10 seconds, or finish the battle without losing any hit points. And as soon as those conditions are put in front of you, the pressure goes up.
Yeah.
And you see the timer at the bottom of the screen. It's like, fuck.
Well, this is where repeat playthroughs of the story comes into play. Now,
Right.
I was the same as you. I mean, at first I was looking at those. It's just like, well, I've got to get every fucking one of these. It's a challenge. And then I realized, but this game is designed for you to play through each character's scenario multiple times. The
Right.
better you do, the more points you unlock, the more you'll actually unlock on the game board for you to find next time. So I got to the point where I was just like, well, okay, well, maybe if I don't get the destiny points now, I'll do better on my next run and get them then. The problem with that, of course, is that once I'd gotten to a certain point, it was just like, yeah, there's some of these characters I just can't be fucked to go through with again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
that actually leads me to a question I meant to ask you. What was since you played with all 10, I only played with 3, and I guess I'll rank them. I'll rank my 3.
Okay, go for it.
I think I liked Tidus the most play style, but he's annoying as shit. And then Cloud. I don't remember that much of Cloud. I think I was just jazzed that you were doing things like Climb Hazard and his cross slash and stuff. I was like, that looked cool as fuck. and then Cecil was the worst. He was the fucking absolute worst. But what of the 10 characters was your favorite?
I think in terms of maneuverability and usability, Tidus was one of my favorites. Zidane as well. I really enjoyed playing with him because he's a quick little fucker. So
yeah,
it was very easy to sort of dash and dodge and get in close. I quite liked. So we got Tidus, Zidane. I got okay with Cecil. Squall was pretty good. I think
Oh yeah.
he'd probably be my third.
Okay.
Warrior of Light was just so much fucking hard work to use, and then there are other characters like Terra, who again pretty much exclusively a magic user, and that's just not my style. Which again is, I know this is the sort of game you do feel obliged to play through as every character because they're there.
Yeah,
And
just to at least to get a taste for them, right?
But when it comes to, if you treat this like a fighting game, like your basic fighting games, they'll always have characters that you're really good with and characters that you're really bad with, and you just stick with your mains, right?
Right.
So I don't think it's necessarily to this game's detriment that there are some characters that are quote unquote difficult to use, because that's kind of what you're in for with fighting games. Like
Yeah, that's true.
what some people, find that quick hit and run of like a Zidane or a Tidus. Other people might like the more slow and meticulous Cecil or Warrior of Light or something like that. And it's just all about the fact that there's that much variation in this game character-wise. It really does fit a lot of different play styles.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And you could, if you want more of a challenge, and it's like, yeah, let me try to go through this with Warrior of Light, even though it's not my style, or he's a little slow, or whatever. And then in that same, the flip side of that coin is if it's a slower character, if you land the hit, that it's probably going to do more damage either to their bravery or to their hit points.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of the trade-off usually.
And again, that's where this version of the game allowing you to then actually complete the game, because if it was the Japanese version, you had to do the whole fucking thing, then probably would knock some points for that. But
I wonder if that's something that, because the game actually was released in Japan and we didn't get it until almost a year later in North America, and also in the EU. I mean, it was pretty close. So December of 2008 for Japan, August or September of 2009. And then they call this thing, they've got this, I guess maybe it was re-released in Japan or updated in Japan, and it's called Universal Tuning.
Okay.
And that was released in Japan in 2009. So I'm wondering if that's what they're talking about here, where maybe they got some feedback once it was released that like no one's completing this game, or like the criticism of the game is that you do have to go through with every character, even the ones you don't care to play as, and beat their stories in order to challenge the end game. And maybe they made that change.
I mean, that definitely would have fucked me off, I think, because
yeah,
I really enjoyed this game, but there are characters that I just did not care for. There are characters that I really had fun with, and if I were forced to play through as every character in order to see the final fight, then that wouldn't have been great.
It'd be like playing Mario Kart and be like, well, to truly beat each cup, then you have to play as each character.
Oh my god! Can you imagine?
Could you imagine? Like,
no. I mean, I suck at Mario Kart anyway. Like, I am just straight up not good at Mario Kart. So
yeah, could you imagine though? Like, you have to play as Bowser, you have to play as Mario and Luigi and Toad, and So
I mean, I'm straight up not.
You don't have to do that.
I'm straight up not very good at Dissidia as well. I'm just too stupid to quit.
Yeah. Let's talk. Another thing that popped into my mind here as we were talking about the battles themselves were the battle arenas. So the battle arenas were pulled from various locations or aspects of different Final Fantasy games. You have like and they're fully realized 3D battle arenas. There are some that are more open than others. There are some that are a little bit more confined or have like places you can fall. And if you fall off of like an edge and end up, like a little black hole appears, and I think you either get docked some hit points or some bravery points, but you can basically teleport yourself back to the land portion. But you are penalized for falling, but you're not killed, which is nice. So there's ones that stuck out to me. There was one that was kind of like a moonscape. I'm not really sure what that was, but there was Pandemonium, which is kind of cool. And there was like Kefka's Castle.
Yep.
So you're like in Kefka's Tower. That's what it was. And there was a castle looking one. I didn't love most of the arenas. I found that, especially Kefka's Tower, I found it really difficult to place where the enemy was, and then they would just like come up from off screen and just fuck me over from like the side or something. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, you can lock on to enemies, but the camera's not always your friend, especially when there are...
and you can't turn the camera.
No, and especially when there are obstacles and walls and things like that in the way, especially, if you're doing the charge or if you're trying to zoom towards and there's a wall in the way, it's just like, you are literally just humping that wall.
Yeah.
While they find a way around you and fuck you over. And I just want to point out the moon is Final Fantasy IV. I had to say that because somebody was going to write in.
Yeah, I haven't played 4 yet. I'm sorry, guys. I've played 1, 2, 3. We'll run it down. I've done 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm missing the Holy Trinity from Super Nintendo.
That's still respectable though.
Not respectable enough, damn it. I got to turn in my card.
Nobody tell Brian.
No, he knows. He knows.
That's why left in disgust.
Yeah.
Piggybacking off of the point that you just made there about fully realized stages, one of the things that I thoroughly enjoyed about this game was literally seeing some of these characters, especially characters from the first, say, 6 Final Fantasy games, because for a lot of these characters, this is the first time I'm seeing them fully realized and voice acted.
Oh yeah,
which is a really nice touch.
Yeah, so you get like scenes where, like, I don't know, let's just say like Kefka and Sephiroth are like chatting about, how they're gonna, like all of the chaos aligned evil guys are conspiring with each other, and it's basically like when you start a story, it's your main character that you're playing as and a companion or two for the cutscenes that are progressing along the game board, and you kind of also see the other side of like, what can we do to stop them from the chaos side. I guess it's kind of neat, although usually like the dialogue was so shitty and nonsensical that I would usually skip the cutscenes.
I mean, it's basically what you'd expect from a Final Fantasy game. I mean, I did appreciate the voice acting. I mean, there are some big names in this game. I mean,
you've
got...
I didn't look it up.
Oh, I mean, I have to. As soon as I heard
Chaos... I'm going to cede this to you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Some big names here.
As soon as I heard Chaos talk, I instantly knew who it was, and it's Keith David, who you may know as Captain Anderson from my beloved Mass Effect, the Arbiter.
That's cool.
From Halo 2 onwards. He's been in a number of films as well. He's just one of those dudes, if you see him, you'll know who he is. I mean, you've got Yuri Lowenthal in here, who's done a ton of things, but most recently the latest Marvel Spider-Man games, he plays Spider-Man. James Arnold Taylor as Tidus, the same guy who did the voice.
James Arnold Taylor is the best.
Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Christopher Sabat is Garland in this as well. It's the voice of like Vegeta, Piccolo. God
damn. Yeah, I had his autograph back in the day on some of my Dragon Ball Z cards. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was a cool dude. I met him at a convention here in town when I was a kid.
That's so cool. But it's just it's
I
so
wish I
nice.
still had that stuff.
It's so nice seeing these characters fully voice acted. I mean, the character models look fantastic.
They do.
It is a fucking great looking game. all round.
Yeah, I will say that. One last thing about the arenas. So you could run obviously at your opponent. There's a jump. I mean, you can't double jump. I think maybe you could double jump, but you can run up the wall by pressing triangle. I didn't figure that out for quite a while, and I was like, how the fuck do I get up this wall?
Yeah.
But you
And
can
again,
run up the walls.
That's such a Final Fantasy Advent Children sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was really hard to control your character when they're on the wall. It was very weird. It was like you would just change direction randomly and end up somewhere else that you didn't intend to be.
Well, again, it's that camera fucking you over.
Right. And then in the moon, there were like arcs that you could kind of see. And then in like Kefka's castle, usually it's like the walls or whatever, but you could basically like Tony Hawk grind yourself across.
Yeah,
like do like a.
I never fucking did, because what is the point? Like, you can literally do nothing off of that maneuver.
No, I would only do that if I'm like trying to chase, because sometimes like going back to those destiny points or whatever. If it was something like, get a critical hit or do anything within a time limit, right. Opponent was going to get on rails and fuck off to the other side of the map immediately every single goddamn time.
Always.
It's like, you fucker, get over here.
It's like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Like the first thing the opponent does is just break for the other side of the map. It's
Jack
like,
Rabbit across.
You are such a dick. So that's frustrating.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that.
What else? What else we got on this?
Oh, buddy.
Music was fantastic.
I mean, the music in this game fucks.
Yeah, they basically take like the best, like the battle themes, obviously, but just like the best themes from each game, and they would just kind of play at random. I think the opponents. So the opponents in like the basically the pawns on the board when you're fighting just like your kind of run-of-the-mill battles on the story mode until you get up to the chaos signet are like shadow versions of characters in the game, and I think they're randomly generated.
Could be.
So you'll get like even if you're playing as like a Tidus or a Cloud or something, you'll get like a shadow version of like Zidane or something like that, or whatever. So it's really kind of inconsequential who you're fighting against. It's just random pawn, but it's just like a copy of another character in the game. So that's kind of just how that works.
It did feel a little bit lazy, but I honestly don't know what else you could have done.
Yeah, I don't know what else you would have done for like a story mode. I guess they're just like, they're just obstacles in your way at that point, basically.
Just
and they have varying levels and stuff like that. But yeah, so those are seem kind of randomly generated, and also like the arena that you're in, and then the music will just kind of be whatever the music is. Like sometimes it would play like the Final Fantasy X battle music, and sometimes the 9, and sometimes the 4 and 3 or whatever. Like I recognize definitely like the Final Fantasy 1 and 2 battle musics are great, and I would catch those, and some of the boss themes would come in, and it's like, oh yeah. Oh, when I was sorry, I'm like all over the place now, but when I was playing Tidus and I was fighting Jack, it played Otherworld, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, listen, as soon as that hit, I was just like, oh shit. Like, I was fully erect at that point. It's just
I was like,
that tune right there just makes me want to 1v1 the fucking sun.
Yeah, Otherworld is such a jam. Like, just to get off on a tangent here, I played Final Fantasy X recently, within the last couple of years, for the first time on my Switch, and just like, I didn't know that song before I played the game, and it just came as a complete surprise in the final like moments of the game. I was just like, what is this song?
Absolutely. And of course, you've got One Winged Angel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't actually done the intro to this episode yet, but I'm almost certainly going to use at least one or both of those tunes. So you've probably already heard it by now.
There's so much music in this game that on the Wikipedia page for the music, I think they must have released like a CD version of it at the time, but there's 2 fucking discs.
Yeah.
Of at least 25 tracks each.
Can confirm it's actually on Spotify.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'd actually listen to it. I mean, they're different arrangements. I think the music credit or the composer credit goes to Takaharu Ishimoto, who's not Nobuyo Uematsu, but
yeah,
it is good stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
shit, I'm gonna have to look that up and save it off, because that is just
real.
Just like a murderer's row of great songs from Final Fantasy games.
If you're just on your daily commute to work, like, you feel like a god.
Yeah.
And I think, there are some original tunes for this game as well, but I think a lot of the heavy lifting was done already for this game, because, like you said, a lot of these are pre-existing tracks, and they really just help sort of tap into that nostalgia for the mainline games.
That's what I was gonna say. It's a nostalgia hit for sure. Like, not only are you seeing like fully 3D rendered versions of these characters that you may not have seen in 3D ever before, but you're getting like it's like Final Fantasy's greatest music on shuffle for each battle. Like, you just like, it's loading up and you're just wondering like what you're gonna see, like what music am I gonna get, what
and if
what am I gonna see, that kind of
if
thing.
you're on a roll and you're flying through the air, trading blows with Sephiroth, and one winged angel is playing, that's just, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, it doesn't.
You are playing Advent Children at that point.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like that, and Advent Children came out like a couple years before that, I think.
I think it was 2005.
Yeah, so you get that, you've had that. If you saw the movie before you played this game, you definitely like had that image in your mind of like, wow, this is what it could look like, and that's pretty cool.
Pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. Anything else that you got on this game? I mean, we've been going for a bit now, so I don't know if you had any other. We talked about the weird story, the gameplay, the characters.
I think we've. Like I said, there are other modes. I didn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess we didn't talk about that. I didn't play the other modes. So like, there's an arcade mode.
I did dabble. Again, the final scenario, I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head.
Shoot, yeah.
Yeah, and that's basically just more of the same. It's sort of five rounds of. Was it 5 rounds of 3? Basically, the same as you've had before. You take your chosen character, you go through, you fight chaos at the end, and save the world. Spoilers.
And Chaos is like a big demon-looking fucker. It's
he's
big old Final Fantasy demon.
Absolutely, and yet again with that voice of Keith David, it's. I was just holy shit. Okay, probably going to lose this fight, but let's have a go anyway.
Yeah.
But no, good shit.
Yeah, and you did actually beat the game, so you've beaten Chaos. How did it feel to actually strike that last blow? And it like when you strike the last blow, it'll like go in slow motion, and it's like,
Chaos did that thing that most, if not all, Final Fantasy bosses do. It's just like, I've just beaten Chaos. Why is the music not? Why? What? Hang on. Oh, there he is.
Does it have multiple forms?
Yeah, I think it was 2, maybe 3. But yeah, no, you're right.
Nice.
When I did strike that last blow, and it's sort of like that photo finish, like.
Yeah, it does that for all of the battles, but man, when it still has that weight when you're in a hard fought battle and you're fighting a boss.
When you're fighting for your life and you manage to just pull off that last Hail Mary and end the fight, which is literally what it was when I beat Chaos. It's just like, fuck yeah.
Just basically scrape by, right?
Yeah, of course. Incredibly satisfying.
Final Fantasy has always been great at making the final blow on a boss, just even going back to the original games, or you know, even the pixel remasters of the original games and stuff like that, like having that sprite just kind of like flicker and go like and then just like pixel by pixel dissolve, like just they're so good at making that satisfying.
It's the satisfaction of as well of not knowing exactly when that blow's going to come, and like you could be literally on your last legs, one character standing, everyone else is knocked out, but when you see that flash or just whatever it is, you're just like, oh.
Yeah, like, this is a bit off topic, but like when you're in an RPG and it's like you're really struggling and it's a tough boss, it's like, man, I'm like out of MP. I'm down to like one character. There was times in Final Fantasy 3, I think, if you've listened to that episode, you know, I was like Dragoon diving, and it's like one character left to like, come the fuck on.
Yep.
And you finally get that last one. It's like, yes.
Outstanding.
Oh, man. Such a great, like, I don't know. Even I didn't love the game just because it's not my style of game. It's not my preferred play style, but just like even talking about it, it's like I have an affection for it just because it's I'll hang on to it. I got my copy recently, and I don't know if I'll necessarily get into it again soon, but like it's definitely there. If I'm curious again, I'm gonna definitely hang on to this game.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. You might try another character and it just suddenly clicks with you.
Right.
You might just find that one that you're just like, oh, I get it now.
Right. Yeah. Just a real weird game, but like just the perfect type of game for a handheld, I think, because like you said, you can jump in and play quick mode. And I didn't really realize, and I didn't spend all that much time with this, unfortunately, but like if I had played it at the time, you know, I definitely would have played, you know, like random battles to level up my character and stuff. And you know, if you're just playing, you know, jumping in to play a game or whatever, you could, I guess, technically be like kind of grinding without realizing that you're grinding. It's like, I just feel like playing this game for a few minutes here and there. And,
definitely.
you know,
definitely.
It all adds up.
And the thing is as well, in some of those extra quick battles and what have you, there are XP boosts and little tricks and bravery tricks and summon tricks and what have you, where you could really sort of cheese the game and level up really quickly. And,
I noticed that there were sometimes I was getting like dog shit for experience points, and then like other times if you beat the battle, you know, even if there's not destiny point conditions in there, if you do certain things like, you know, flawless victory or whatever, you know, flawless victory, you know, like, you know, beating a battle without losing hit points or breaking, you know, you can break and get critical hits and stuff like that. You can do a lot of that stuff. I think it kind of gets you into some like experience multiplier scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and there was times when I think if I did particularly well in a battle, especially when I was low level, I was leveling multiple levels per, you know, it would say like you went from level 1 to, you know, 3 or something like that.
That's because, interestingly enough, the experience in this game is tied into how much HP damage you do on an individual hit. So the higher it is, the higher your bravery goes. When you unleash that HP attack, it'll almost directly translate over to XP as well.
So it's good to like build up as much bravery as possible and then unleash
that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
you definitely could. If you really understood the mechanics of how that works, I'm sure you could level up a character very, very fast.
Yeah. I mean, the game doesn't do the best job of explaining everything, but...
No, not at all. I mean, unless you read the manual. It did come with a manual, which I will admit I didn't read, so... I don't know. Like, with a game this complicated, not that it's complicated, but with a game with this much intricacy to it, definitely reading the manual might not help. I mean, you might be just as lost because it's trying to tell you, like, well, this meter and that meter and these types of attacks. It's like, well, these are things that you might learn just by going through the game and through the
I
motions.
learned everything I needed to know from the loading screens because it is a PSP, so you had time to read them.
Oh, that too. Yeah. Those load times initially really bothered me, but after a while it wasn't so bad.
It's just sign of the times, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're
it
also
is.
impatient these days, damn it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have such powerful technology that load times are either almost eliminated entirely or just kind of like integrated into the, a game is constantly loading while
Yeah.
you're, running or something like that, which is just fucking crazy. But yeah, definite sign of the times, loading screens and stuff, Oh, well. And you get to hear that, like, that little mini disc spinning inside that UMD cartridge where it's like, yeah, that scratching sound.
That
Sounds
thing is
awful. It sounds like the thing
ridiculous.
is breaking. Yeah,
I know. So I had to take my games out and just look at it and just like, are you okay? Like, do you
Did
need
it
help?
scratch the fuck out of that? Like, what is that?
do you need a rest or something? Can I get you anything? Like, chill the fuck out.
That is, what a weird piece of technology, kind of flash in the pan.
Yeah.
That was, to my knowledge, and maybe, someone will probably write in and be like, no, it was this one. But to my knowledge, this might have been the only handheld device that played this style of like a disc system. Like a disc is not a very portable thing.
No.
I mean, we had portable CD players where we carried around CD books and stuff like that. But like,
Yeah.
as far as a game console, you don't want to be like jamming a CD into your game console. That's just kind of a weird. So this is kind of a mishmash of, it's a disc, but it's encased in this plastic little cart that you stick in the back, and it's very loose in there. It's like it's hard to explain. It's like a weird thing that opens in the back of the PSP, and then you just like drop this disc cartridge in there, and it's just like a freely floating little CD player on the back of your little console. It's just such a weird. I don't know.
It is. It definitely is. I mean, I love those little things, though. I mean, they look neat, and they remind me of good times.
They're cool. Yeah.
So, what do you reckon? Shall we? Should we wrap up with our final thoughts? You want to go first?
I can go first. I didn't go as scorched earth as I thought I would on this, just because it's not my style of game. But I'm not going to sit here and say this is a bad game. This is a cool game that does a lot of interesting and creative things. It's just not my preferred play style. So I don't love it, but I don't hate it. It has some very frustrating things, but that's a me problem, I think, and not so much the game's problem. For myself, I'd give it like a 6. It's probably not something I'm going to go back to right away, or at all ever maybe, but I'll definitely, like I said, hang on to my copy. And if you do like a fighting game, or if you enjoy, like I've said before, I'm not the most keen on the modern action RPG style Final Fantasy. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake is fine, but I don't love it. It's not my style. I like my turn-based RPGs. But if you like that style of gameplay, I mean, this is basically that style of gameplay. You're running around in a free open space, 3 dimensions, and executing your attacks in similar ways. Like there's not a magic screen or anything, so it's not a 1-to-1 comparison, but it is definitely action RPG-esque in the fighting style. So it's a 6 for me, and it's an okay game. How about you?
Wow, I've got to say, a 6 out of 10 is a lot more generous than I thought you were going to be. I mean, guys, if you could have seen Sam in our Discord chat, like I was fucking certain he was going to come in here and just shit all over this game. I was thinking, this is going to be lucky to get a 3, and it's one of those things as well where it's just like I sort of recommended this game to Sam, and it's just like, oh boy, like. Did I fuck up? Like, what's going on here?
Oh, Cecil for sure soured me for a bit there.
That's absolutely, I'll hear that argument. That's absolutely fair. No, I mean, I think this is a very obvious choice for a series like Final Fantasy. Like I said, I think it almost had to happen with the sheer number of characters at their disposal, it almost would have been stupid not to make a fighting game out of Final Fantasy. I do appreciate that they mix it up, but like I said, not being too huge a fan of the 2D fighting style, the sheer amount of space that you've got to play in, and the verticality, and the fucking style that is just dripping off of this game. I mean, the characters look great. The high flying, high octane action. Just again, if you can get it right. And I'll admit, the game doesn't do a great job of explaining to you how to do that. So a lot of this you have to figure out yourself. But when you do, and like I said, when you get on a roll, it genuinely feels like you're playing like an anime or something. It sounds great. It looks great. You know, some characters you're going to love, some characters you're just not going to get on with. But again, that's just a fighting game all over. You're always going to find one that is your main, and that's just who you click with. I mean, there's not much I can say that I disliked about this game. I mean, at times, like, the camera can be clunky. Some of the traversal mechanics, like running up walls and what have you, can be a bit wonky. But it's a proof of concept, and I'm definitely interested in playing. There's a prequel to this, and just like another. I think there's a PS4 Dissidia as well, and I'm very, very interested in playing those. I think I'm going to land on around about 7.5. I think not my favorite game in the world. You know, not even my favorite Final Fantasy game, but it's just a lot of fun, and it ticks a lot of boxes.
Very nice. Yeah. It's a cool game. If you're even curious about it, I'd say try to find a way to play it, or find or play it, one of the ones that's a little bit more available nowadays, I guess. Like you said, there's that PS4 one.
Yeah. I've got it upstairs somewhere. I just haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, like, what is this? This is the follow-up. Okay, so there is a second bear with us a second. There is a Dissidia 12, or I don't know if it's 12 or 012. It's a weird.
Do you know what? In
title,
traditional like Kingdom Hearts style, I think it's actually pronounced duodecim.
Oh, for fuck's sake. But yeah, that's also on the PSP, and that came out in 2011. So that's another looks like a much improved, if I'm looking at a screenshot of this, looks like a much improved version.
As I understand it, it's both a prequel to this game and also a kind of remake of this game as well. So it's kind of a bit of both.
That's pretty cool. And then, yeah, what's the other one then? Whatever. It's not important, but there is a PS4 one. So that's pretty awesome. Just, lots of little fun nods to obviously the first 10 games in the series for sure, and a little bit of the current at the time, 11 and 12, but overall decent game.
Absolutely.
There you have it, folks. That is our review of Dissidia Final Fantasy. Join us next time to talk about I'm not sure what, because I'm not sure what's on the schedule after this week. I would say it's probably either Metroid Zero Mission, or maybe Streets of Rage 2, or Live Alive, or Live Alive, or whatever, or something else, or some game. I don't know.
Something
Join
fucking
us next
awesome.
time. Something awesome. Yeah, I like all three of those games, so it'll be much more. Not that this wasn't a positive review, but definitely more my jam as far as what the game is that we're talking about. But cool. Thanks, Alan. And everyone listening, we will chat with you next time. Have a great week, everyone.
On behalf of Retrotopia Podcast, for myself, Sam, and Alan, we would like to give a shout out to our Patreons in the Hero tier. It includes Andrew Wright, Makeshift Money, Randy Burridge, Because19, Jay Nasty, Chris Coplan, Michael Melito, David Henley, Big Kid 782, and joining us recently, Sir Bustalot, Super Dave, and Wildcard. Your support means the world to us. Thank you very much, and you can join Patreon for free at patreon.com/Retrotopia. Thanks for listening.